Shabbat Shalom, Phyllis. Oh, right, we can take them off, can't we? If you're okay. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Counting Zoom, I think?
Shabbat Shalom. Do we count us on Zoom?
Counting the people on Zoom?
Yeah.
No, counting the 3 people.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Abe.
Shabbat Shalom. I see you waving, Abe. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Gail. And,
So-
Lisa Arberson.
Well, we'll get started. As you know, myself, Noah Rubin-Vlos, and Debbie Rand are leading the service this morning, and really grateful to be here with all of you. So we will begin with the taking upon ourselves the mitzvah to love our neighbor as ourselves. It's on page 138 in the Siddur, or it will be in the chat.
Hareini mekabel alai et mitzvot haborei ve'elokai l'reach kamocha, l'reich kamocha. Hareini mekabelet alai et mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha l'reacha kamocha.
Shabbat Shalom. It's been a difficult week, and I was thinking last night that it's a week where we really need Shabbat to work on us. We need this time of rest and renewal together. So I want to invite you to take a breath. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorahi. This breath, this soul in me is pure. The Kotzker Rebbe famously said, "There's nothing more whole than a broken heart." So we keep breathing, remembering that even if we are feeling the brokenness in the world, that very brokenness is still whole and pure. There is a Japanese pottery art called kintsugi, where artists take broken pottery and piece it back together and put gold leaf in the cracks. And people say that the put back together broken pottery is even more beautiful in a lot of cases than the whole pottery originally was. So if you're feeling those cracks this morning, I invite you to keep breathing. Invite in Shabbat, invite in some rest, and remember that there is beauty and wholeness when we gather together. Do you want to introduce this?
So we're going to start with Psalm 34, which is on page 189 in the Siddur, and this version doesn't have it in the.
It's on your handout. The
verse. It starts on page 20, I believe, in the PDF. We'll daven the first part together. Daven silently, I guess, and then on the fourth line in the Hebrew and in the transliteration, it's in the chat and in the on the handout. So continuing on this same theme that we're probably all feeling today, brokenheartedness. That line that we're going to sing together. Karov Adonai l'rish b'rei lev v'yetachei ruach yoshia. God is close to the brokenhearted and helps those who are crushed in spirit. So we're going to sing the melody that I've done very often at our Nigun sessions. It's a Chabad Lubavitch melody. The original melody, that melody is two words that are actually part of the Yom Kippur liturgy, but very similar sentiment. A God who responds to those seeking answers, answer us. God who responds to the brokenhearted, answer us. So when I was going through the Pesukei de Zimra Psalms, it seemed like that theme was with us this week so much. And I'll start with the beginning of the psalm. לדוד בשענתו התמוה, לפני אבימלך ויגרשהו וילך אברך בכל עת, תמיד תהילתו בפיו, דרשתי את אדוני ויענני, מכל מגבותי הצילני, תמו ירקיתו וכולאים שיבעו לי, מי האיש החפץ חיים, על אלוהים נראותו, סור מרע ועשתו בקש שלום ורדפהו, הנה אדוני הצדיקים תעזב. קרוב אדוני לריש פרי לב, ואת דרכי רוח יושיע. קרוב אדוני לנשברי לב, ואת דרכי רוח יושיע. קרוב אדוני לנשברי לב, ואת דרכי רוח יושיע. ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la, ay la 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 la. עודד אדוני נפש עבדיו ולא ישמעו כל החוסים בו.
A psalm for Shabbat. It's good to give thanks, to rest. Sometimes we really need it. So it's such a gift that we get to be together and give thanks. Psalm 92, page 209 in the book, 26 in the PDF.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות. יא לה 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 יא לה יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה יא לה 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 יא לה 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 יא לה 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 מה גדלו מעשיך, אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך, איש בר לא יחזיק ואתה מרום לעולם, אדוני, כי הנה אויביך. צדיק אתה מה יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו, עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עוולתה בו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורי ולא עוולתה בו. יא לה 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 לה, יא לה 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 לה, יא לה
Shabbat Shalom. We take a moment before we call each other to prayer with the Baruch Hu, to just look around the room, look around the Zoom room, around the sanctuary. Just to give someone a Shabbat Shalom with your eyes. We rise for the Baruch Hu. It's on page 247 or 40 in the PDF.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל.
You may be seated. Continue, page 249.
הכל יודוך והכל ישבחוך והכל יאמרו אין קדוש קדוש, הכל יאמרו מצל יפה. דרך בכל יום דרוש. המאיר לעצמנו ממלא ברחמים וטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד נעשה בראשית. המלך אפס פלתך גואלנו לימות המשיח, ואין דמלך מושיענו לחיי עולמים.
On page 253, transliterated on 255, or 45 in the PDF for Eladon.
אל אדון על כל המעשים, ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה. גדלו וטובו מלא עולם, דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו. המתגאה חיות הקודש, ונדע בכבוד על המרכבה. זכות ומישור לפני כיסו, חסד ברחמים לפני כבודו. טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו, יצרם בדעת, בבינה ובהשכל. כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל. מלאים זיו ומחליקים נוגה, נאה זיום בכל העולם. שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים באימה רצון קונם. פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צהלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו. קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, ראה והתקין צורת הלבנה. שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש. לילה יאללה לה לה לילה יאללה לה לה לילה יאללה לה לה לה
This is an excerpt from a poem by Marge Piercy. Every day, we find a new sky and a new earth, with which we are trusted like a perfect toy. We are given the salty river of our blood, winding through us, to remember the sea and our kindred under the waves, the hot pulsing that knocks in our throats, to consider our cousins in the grass and the trees, all bright scattered rivulets of light. We are given the wind within us, the breath to shape into words that steal time, that touch like hands and pierce like bullets, that waken truth and deceit, sorrow and pity and joy, that waste precious air in complaints, in lies, in floating traps for power in the dirty air. Yet holy breath still stretches our lungs to sing. We are given the body, this momentary kibbutz of elements, that belong to frog and polar bear, corn and oak tree, volcano and glacier. We are lent for a time these minerals in water, and a morning every day, a morning to wake up, rejoice and praise life in our spines, our throats, our knees, our genitals, our brains, our tongues. We are given fire to see against the dark, to think, to read, to study how we are to live, to bank in ourselves against defeat and despair that cool and muddy our resolves, that make us forget what we saw we must do. We are given passion to rise like the sun in our minds with a new day and burn the debris of habit and greed and fear. Let silence still us, so you may show us your shining, and we can out of that stillness rise and praise. Or Chadash, let a new light shine, and may we meet it. May we be able to experience its light. We conclude the Yotzer with Or Chadash on page 269.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכחו לנו במהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות.
And from light, creation, to love.
אהבה רבה אהבתנו, אדוני אלוהינו,
273.
אבינו מלכנו ואבותינו ואמותינו שבת חיים כן נחננו אבינו ברוך מנחם עלינו. In the last part of that paragraph, as part of this love, we place into our hearts the ability to understand, to see, to hear, to learn, to teach, to keep, to do, and to uphold with love all that we study of your Torah. In the fourth line in the Hebrew and in the transliteration. Fifth line. ותן בליבנו להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמוע ולעשות, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד, תורתך באהבה, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד, תורתך באהבה. יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה 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 לה. כי בשם קדושך הגדול הרב פתחנו, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך, והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קומיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע ואמת, להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We'll dive in the second paragraph to ourselves on page 279 or 283. Come back together on 285.
והיה עם שמו. Page 285. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף בטיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וריתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
So we turn to the Michamocha, this reminder that freedom happened in the past and it can happen again. Tarana Burke, the founder of the Me Too movement, says that hope is like a seed. When she started this movement against gender-based violence over a decade before it went viral a few years ago, she had to hold on to the belief that the real possibility of change, which seemed impossible for a lot of people. This seed of hope led her to write letters to celebrities urging them to speak out about gender-based violence. No one even wrote back to her. Then over time, there was a major shift, and many celebrities and non-celebrities were speaking out. She said, "It may have been naive, but the letter writing definitely came from a pure place. I really thought that just from the urgency of the issue, that alone would make these people interested," which it didn't, but it did. I do believe that it planted a seed, that hope is like a seed, and that was nurtured over time. And it gave birth to a thing eventually. And that's why hope is important. Because it doesn't manifest. It's not like a chia pet. You're not going to water it in 5 days and have the thing you wanted. So she's saying that making change requires the ability to hold steadfast to the belief that change is possible, even when it might not feel that way. It also, of course, takes work and strategy, and the hope can fuel us for that hard work too. So as we sing Mi Chamocha, calling to mind our ancestors' story of crossing the Sea of Reeds to freedom, we don't just remember that moment, but we let that seed of hope, that seed of freedom and justice, remind us that we can have hope to create more justice and peace in the world today, at a time where it's so needed. Mi Chamocha, page 291 or 66.
Tehilot Leil Elyon, Baruch Hu V'Vorach, Moshe uMiriam uVnei Yisrael, Lecha anu shira b'simcha rabba, v'yamru chulam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osef eleh. Shira chadasha shibechu geulim leshimcha al sefat hayam yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed to Yisrael Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael ufidei chinumecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Go'aleinu Adonai Tzevaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Amen. Turn to the Amidah, which begins on page 295. We'll daven the first 3 blessings out loud together and then continue on our own. You can find the words in the book or simply the prayer in your heart this morning.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכה חסדי אבות ואימות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי כל חי ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות כל חי. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי כל חי. Page 303. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון? בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. ועינינו תראנה, תראנה מלכותך. ועינינו תראנה, תראנה מלכותך. כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. Adonai leolam, Elohayich Tzion, ledor vador, Hallelujah. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. Continue silently. אשרינו ותפקנו ונגדולנו, מה יפעלנו שתנו. Shabbat.
If you're still davening, please continue. We'll close our Amidah with Oseh Shalom on page 323.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru,
We move into the Torah service. So invite up our Ark opener and Torah holder. And please rise as the Ark is opened. We're on page 385.
Kuma Adonai, ve'afutzu oilecha, ve'anusu misanecha, mipanecha. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udevar Adonai miYerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael, b'kdushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu l'Adonai iti uneromema shemo yachdav. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu l'har kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu l'har kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu ramemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu ramemu. Ay la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ay ya la ya la la ya la 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 ay ay la la ya la la ya la 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 la.
You may be seated. So, before we begin our Torah reading, we are in Parshat Bechukotai, the very last parsha in the book of Leviticus. So this closes out the laws given at Sinai before the people continue wandering in the wilderness for quite some time. And the verses that we are reading, like much of Leviticus, are very technical. They concern property that has been consecrated to the temple and then offers options for people to redeem those pledges in other ways rather than giving the item itself. So could be maybe a model for accessibility and flexibility. We'll have 5 aliyot this morning. The first one is for anyone observing a yard site. The second one will be for healing. So you're welcome actually to come up it'll be a group aliyah, and we'll do the names as well. But if you want to come up for this aliyah, If you want some healing for yourself or are thinking of someone, that'll be the second aliyah. And the third aliyah will be for anyone celebrating a simcha. Oh, okay. So the first aliyah is Leviticus 27:14 through 16, and it starts on page 754.
ויעזור ויוגן ויושע לחכוסים בו ונאמר אמן. Sorry. הכל הבו גודל עלינו תנו כבוד לתורה, נא לעמול לי עליה הראשונה. ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. ואתם הבקים באדוני אלוהיכם, חיים כולכם היום. The first aliyah is for those who are observing a yard site today or in the coming week. So if there is anyone on the Zoom who is also observing, please raise your hand or let us know somehow that you are also. Okay, we do have one person there. So are you unmuted? And
I'm unmuted.
okay, so we can begin.
Okay. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirvanu lavodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Ve'ish ki yakdish et beito kodesh ladonai ve'ericho hakohen ben tov uvein ra kasher yarich oto hakohen ken yakum ve'im hamakdish yigal et beito V'yasaf chamishit kesef erkecha alav v'hayalo v'im misedei achuzato yakdish ish ladonai v'haya erkecha lefi zaro Zera chomer seorim b'chamishim shekel kasef.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
So I'd like to ask those of you observing a yard site if you'd like to share the name and relationship of the person whose yard site you're observing.
My mother, Evelyn Brain.
Yes, I would like to share the name of Dr. Lorna Breen, whose second yard site is tomorrow. She died at the start of the pandemic while serving at Allen Hospital in Upper Manhattan, and she contracted the virus and died. So I always remember her. May her memory and soul be for a blessing.
Thank you. Yamale rachamim shochen bamromim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina b'malot kedoshim u'tohorim kezohar harakia mazhirim לנשמות יקירינו קדושינו שהלכו לעולמם. אנא בעל הרחמים, הסתירם בצל כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בשרור החיים את נשמתם, אדוני הוא נחלתם. וינוחו בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר אמן. And the second Aliyah, beginning on verse 17, thank you. נא לעמוד לעלייה השנייה.
So anyone seeking healing or wanting to come for this Aliyah for healing for someone?
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam, Asher Kervanu Lavodato, V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. In Nishmat HaYovel Yakdish Tzadeu Kerkecha Yakum Ve'machar HaYovel Yakdish Tzadeu V'chishav lo HaKohen את הכסף על פי השנים הנותרות עד שנת היובל, ונגרע מערכך. ואם גאול יגאל את השדה המקדיש אותו, ויסף חמישית כסף ערכך עליו וקם לו. ואם לא יגאל את השדה, ואם מכר את השדה לאיש אחר, לא יגאל עוד. והיה השדה בצאתו ויובל, קודש לאדוני כבדי החרם, לכהן תהיה אחוזתו.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Ruach HaOlam, Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet, B'chayei Olam Nota B'tochenu. Baruch Ata Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
And before we say that the Misha Berachs, I just want to say that Carolyn, this was so wonderful. This is right after the Bar Mitzvah, the adult Bar Mitzvah, and Carolyn said, I want to try this again. And she did, and more than just one pasuk there, and beautifully done. So Yasher Koach, Carolyn, and welcome to the Laner Club.
It's thanks to all the wonderful teachers here, including Zemi, my mentor.
So, Mishaberach, Avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Ve'imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless those who rose for this aliyah and all of those in our hearts in need of healing with refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, healing of body, and healing of spirit. You want to say, yeah?
Yeah, Lorraine Loesch. I'm saying healing for all of us who are going through difficult changes, including myself, as well as my cousin Elizabeth, my dear friend Eve, who are going through cancer treatments, and my cousin Marilyn, who's having some other physical and emotional difficulties, and my dear darling niece by family, by choice, Sophia, who is going through some really difficult teenage rebellious times.
Anyone on Zoom who rose for this, Leah? Oh, Carolyn, go.
Yeah.
My brother Nick Benson.
Thank you. Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, Margot Hellman in Jerusalem, and my former wife, Martha, who just got over COVID. She had a bout with COVID.
Thank you. So I'll read our Mishaberach list, and then there'll be an opportunity for folks in the room and to say names also and put names in the chat. Esther Aviva bat Sarah Edel, Avraham Mikhael ben Shira Yafe v'Yosef, Larry Josephson, Zelda bat Devorah v'Yisrael, Mort Gerberg, Chava bat Moish, Paul Lindenbaum, Phyllis Krutner, Kayla bat Sarah, Amy Mendelker, Florence Cohn, Tehila bat Bella, Florence Rosenthal, Ruth Goldenson, Kate Frici, Jill Prosky, Shalom Hellman, Yaakov ben Lot, Reyes ben Sarah, Chava bat Chaya, George Frega, Jennifer Novak, Shimon ben Tzvi and Esther, Hanan Lev ben Leah, Abigail Feder-Kane, Hagen Gottfried, Joseph Gottfried, Heidi Gottfried, Nanette Gottfried, Jesse Gottfried, Sonali Roy Chodhuri, Ari Vogel, Al Seidenberg, Table Ruchel bat Hashka v'Avraham, Sarah bat Leah Golding, Devorah bat Chava ve'Ignatz. So I'll kind of motion around the room, and Debbie will sing Ana Elna.
Ana Elna Refanala, Ana Elna Refanala, Ana Elna Refanala.
Do we have anyone who has a simcha to celebrate with us today? Anyone at home or in the room? Okay, so
I think you should take
I'm
the
gonna-
Aliyah. Because
yeah.
it's your last Shabbat.
it's a bittersweet simcha. Maybe the simcha I'll take this Aliyah. I'm just really celebrating all of you, though, and the opportunity to have gotten to be here as the rabbinic intern for the past 2 years. I'm also,
Nalamo Aliyah Shalishit. Continuing on verse 22, page 755.
I gotta find it. I gotta remember where it starts. I checked it too. Where is it? Whee. Hello, everybody. Oh, I found it. Okay. Okay. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kervanu lavodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. I think. Oh, and now I have to find it again, everyone. Okay, it's so complicated. Thank you. Yeah, I found it. Yeah. Ve'im et sadeh miknato asher lo misdeh achuzato yakdish l'Adonai vehishav lo hakohen et miksat ha'erkacha ad shnat hayovel v'natan et ha'erkacha bayom hahu kodesh l'Adonai Bishnat hayovel yashuv hasadeh lasher kanahu me'ito lasher lo achuzat haaretz v'kol erkecha yiyeh Bashekel HaKodesh, Esrim Gerah, Yeh al HaShakel. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'hayei olam nata betochenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. I'm going to say something at the end of the service for you, so we won't repeat it again, Val, but it's good to hear you, Lane. So, do you want to go by from me? Okay, we're on verse 26. Doing a little juggling. She can do it if you want.
Okay, verse 26, page 256. Nala Amod, La Aliyah Ha, what is it? Revi'i, Jackie.
Baruch hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vahed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kivanu levodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ach bechor asher yevuchkar l'Adonai vivhema lo yakdish ish oto im shor im set l'Adonai hu ve'im babehema hatmea ufada be'erkecha v'yasaf chamishito alav ואם לא ייגאל ונמכר בערכך. אך כל חרם אשר יחרים איש לאדוני מכל אשר לו, מאדם ובהמה ומשדה אחוזתו, לא ימכר ולא ייגאל. כל חרם קודש קודשים הוא לאדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Good to see you back here, Jackie. The fifth Aliyah begins on verse 29, page 756. Nala amol aliyah hachamishit.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leila Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kivanu lavodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Listen to Danielle.
Amen. Kol herem asher yachoram min ha'adam lo yipadeh mot yumat v'chol masar ha'aretz v'zerah ha'aretz miperi ha'etz l'Adonai hu kodesh l'Adonai ve'im ga'o yigal ish ממעשרו חמישיתו יוסף עליו וכל מסר בקר וצום כל אשר יעבור תחת השבט העשירי יהיה קודש לאדוני לא יבקר בין טוב לרע ולא ימירנו ואם המר ימירנו והיה הוא ותמורתו יהיה קודש לא ייגאל אלה המצוות אשר ציווה אדוני את משה בני ישראל בהר סיני. זך ישראל.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Take our Torah back. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. Na la'amod lahagba'a v'liglila. Please rise for the raising and binding of the Torah scroll. Oh. You good? וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל ביד אדוני ביד משה. יה לה 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 יה לה 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 יה לה 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 יה לה 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 לה. Ay la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Ay ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la ya la. Yep. Yeshko.
Shabbat Shalom. It is an age-old part of the human condition to ask why. Children ask it all the time. And for adults, the question why often comes up when something tragic is happening. Why is this happening to me or to someone I love? Or how is it possible that something no one deserved is taking place, even if it's happening to perfect strangers? Perhaps the answer to this question of why was simpler for our ancestors. The bulk of Parshat Bechukotai, right before the verses that we read today, details a series of blessings and curses, which will befall the Israelites if they do or do not follow the laws of Torah. The curses appear to be a warning to influence people to act right, following a reward and punishment sort of model. These curses are our ancestors' attempt to answer the question why. Some scholars date this particular part of Leviticus to the Babylonian exile in the 500s BCE. So faced with devastating times, the loss of the lives that they knew, loss of their homes, and uncertainty about the future, the authors of these curses and blessings sought to explain how the exile could have happened. And this is the answer that they came up with: that the people must have collectively sinned so badly that God had punished them. And so they wanted to write down these warnings to make sure that they learned the lesson and that it wouldn't happen again. It's maybe problematic for us. I find it problematic. And so when we think about this question today of why, especially why do bad things happen, punishment from some type of God who doles out blows from on high is not a satisfying answer for many of us. We might follow Kaplan's thinking that God is the power that makes for salvation, some kind of force that works with and through us for good in the world, or we might not believe in a God at all, or we might, but we also believe in the power of human free will. When I worked as a hospital chaplain this past summer, we were trained actually not to focus on this question of why. We were taught, and I did experience that the question, it inevitably brings up ideas around sin and punishment, as it did for our ancestors here. So it's often a really painful and maybe unhelpful question if we kind of get stuck in that spiral. Instead, it can be better to focus on how to get through and what lessons we can draw from an experience of suffering. Perhaps the ways that a long illness can bring us closer to the people that care for us, or how an untimely death can remind us of how precious life is and how much we love our loved ones, or any kind of suffering can remind us of our connection to other people who experience loss. I was almost satisfied with this instruction to kind of distract away from the question of why. I do believe that we can make meaning without having to answer the question. However, as a human, the why keeps following me around, kind of like a duck that thinks that I have bread for it, and it just won't stop bothering me. And the one person that I've found, maybe you have others, in Jewish tradition that I think has a good answer is Maimonides, the philosopher, rationalist, scholar, and doctor of 12th century Spain and North Africa. Maimonides sought to reconcile his scientific and philosophical ideas about the world with the Torah, with these lists of blessings and curses. And he wanted to understand how suffering could exist in the world. In his Guide of the Perplexed, which is a very perplexing book, he posited that evil and suffering come from 3 different sources. The first source is the laws of nature. We are mortal, and the structure of finite life necessitates death and disease. There's no God who acts in the world causing suffering, specifically, but the laws of creation itself mean that we will experience suffering and loss, simply because we live. There's a give and take here, a possibility that we can remember when we feel broken, that very brokenness, as we've kind of been talking about today, is because of how much aliveness there is in the world at the same time. It's just part of the balance. This does not explain every type of suffering, however. The second type of suffering is suffering that humans inflict on each other. Maimonides includes things like murder and war on this list. I would also include white supremacy, systemic oppression, lack of political will to stop gun violence. The list goes on. He separates this human-on-human suffering from the first source in order to say, when we do these things to each other, it's not some kind of punishment from on high. It's something that humans do and that humans have the power, at least theoretically, to stop doing. The third kind of suffering is the suffering that we inflict on ourselves. He's a little obsessed with this one, actually, which I don't agree with that part, but I do think it's a very wise, we need to understand the third type too. He describes it as our own laziness and indulging in vices and that sort of thing. So sometimes we are in part to blame for our own suffering. We let ourselves get stuck in our own heads. Maybe we are binge watching the latest Netflix series instead of helping out a neighbor, and then we feel lonely, and then we're like, oh, we could have prevented that. It's on us really very personally to make these types of changes in our lives. We might need support, and we shouldn't have to get out of this kind of suffering alone, and we have the power to do it. So when I think about these three sources of suffering, I can't help but think that often our suffering actually comes from a combination of these sources. A Black disabled woman dies from complications of COVID-19 at age 41. There's the truth that death and disease are part of life and can strike anyone at any time. And then another part is the ways that racism and ableism are embedded in our healthcare system, and it's likely that she did not get the full care that she deserved. Not to mention the way that human action and inaction have made the pandemic far worse than it needed to be. Or a woman going through a divorce finds herself in anguish 2 years later. Perhaps it's part of the laws of nature that when we love, we will experience loss, whether that loss comes at the time of death or before. At the same time, perhaps her ex-husband said some cruel things that caused her pain, and perhaps, too, she's become stuck in a spiral where suffering is a habit, and the fact that she's in pain causes her even more pain. In explaining suffering, Maimonides veers sharply away from any kind of theology of divine punishment, such as the one in our parsha. But one thing that he has in common with the curses in our parsha is a belief that human actions make a difference. In our parsha, humans can bring a curse from the heavens through our actions. But Maimonides simply tells us that our actions have human consequences. 2 out of the 3 kinds of suffering come directly from us. While some suffering will always exist, we could together rid our world of the other 2 kinds. Not that it's going to be easy. We can do everything in our power to call on politicians in the wake of the Uvalde shooting to start enacting gun control legislation that makes a real impact. In the wake of the Buffalo shooting, so clearly tied to racist ideology, it is on us to continue the work to dismantle white supremacy in our country and our world. It takes political will and people pressure and collective power to do it. And we might need to support each other to move out of the perhaps self-inflicted suffering of inaction in order to get there. The Parsha has some wisdom also for how to get there. These curses and punishments are described as having the effect of uncovering the people's hearts. To unblock, open, and uncover their hearts so that they will remember their true nature and do good in the world. In the Parsha, it's kind of like an effect of the threat, but I think for us, perhaps it could be just an instruction for how to prevent suffering, how to start doing the work to create less human-on-human suffering in the world. Perhaps our work in the face of evil and suffering is to seek to open our hearts, to keep opening them wide to the victims and the families of these shootings, and to let that opening help us hold each other close, to allow ourselves to move to action and build a world with less suffering. Aleinu, it's indeed on us to do so. When I think about this heart work, I also think about the 2 years that I've spent with you all in this community. Over and over again, I've heard new and old members talk about how special the SAJ community is, and I felt it from the moment that I was so warmly welcomed by you all, even though the whole first year of my internship was on Zoom. I could feel it through the computer screen. Together, we've been through 2 full years of pandemic and so much loss. We've also been through simchas. I've gotten to teach and learn with many of you, gotten to know your children. We've celebrated bar mitzvahs of all ages. And I think it is your open-heartedness, the care that you show each other and the care that you show the world through your social justice work that makes all the difference. So, in the face of a world full of so much suffering, let's keep uncovering our hearts and doing the hard work to rid the world of as much suffering as we can together. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you. Yeah. So,
Yasher koach.
thank you.
Again, I'm going to say something right at the end of the service, so I saved it for then.
It's time to announce a new month. There's so much new opportunity every day and every month. We're on page 425 and 427 in the Siddur.
And Sarah Kate, would you like to come up and hold the Torah?
Do we rise?
Yes. It's yours.
Please rise and bow to your spirit.
Just stand here like this. Okay.
Should I read this?
Yeah.
Okay. May this new month be a month of blessings. Blessings of goodness, blessings of joy, peace and kindness, friendship and love, creativity, strength, serenity, fulfilling work and dignity, satisfaction, success, I'm reading from the handout now, satisfaction, success, and sustenance, physical health, and radiance. May truth and justice guide our acts and compassion temper our lives, that we may blossom as we age and become our sweetest selves. May it be so.
Mishas anisim la'avotenu u'li'imotenu v'ga'al otam be'avdut lecherut hu yigal otanu b'karo v'kabesi lachinu me'arba kanfot ha'aretz chaverim kol Yisrael v'nomar Amen. Rosh Chodesh Sivan Yeh B'Yom HaShlishi Haba Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael L'Tova. The month of Sivan begins on Tuesday of the coming week. Yechareshenu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Aleinu V'Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel L'Chaim U'L'Shalom
Amen.
L'Sason U'L'Simcha
Amen.
U'L'Yeshua U'L'Nechama V'Nomar Amen. Now we replace the Torah in the ark. Our ark opener can come forward. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado.
Page 433.
Al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren le'amo. Tehila lecho chafidav, livnei Yisrael, am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Et chaimi lemachazikim ba vetomcheha meushar derocheha dachenoam
בכל נתיבותיה. שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם.
יישר כוח. If you turn to page 309, and I believe it's in the handout also, I like to sing something before we say Aleinu. Yismechu, we haven't sung that in a long time. Maybe remember the joy of Shabbat, even though it's been such a difficult week. Please join me. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oleg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oleg Shabbat. Mekareshe Shavi Shabbat, Kulam Yispehu V'yitagu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomerei, Shomerei, Shomerei Shabbat v'korei oleg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, Shomerei, Shomerei, Shomerei Shabbat v'korei oleg Shabbat. Hashvi ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat, chemdat yamim oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oleg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat v'korei oleg Shabbat. Zecher למעשה וראשית שבת, זכר למעשה וראשית שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי הולך שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקוראי הולך שבת.
We move to close our service with the Aleinu on page 445 or 110 in the PDF. It's on us. Please rise as you're able.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד. ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. So we turn to the Mourner's Kaddish, opportunity to honor those we've lost either in this cycle of the year or in recent days. We are remembering Sandra Hope Friedman, Martin Ducat, Evelyn Brain, Jane Zorek, Joyce Brothers, and this week also the loss of George Anderson Woods. Yeah. Any other names folks would like to say? If anyone at home wants to put a name in the chat of someone you're remembering. Page 451. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh ve'amlik malchuteh, b'hayachon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, bagala uvizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitaleh, Vitalal, Shmei Tekudsha, Brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirchata, tushbechata v'ne'amata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May their memories be for a blessing and wishing comfort to all who are mourning and remembering. Janet, please come up for some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So great to see you all here today. Thank you to Noah, Ruben Blows, and Debbie Rand for leading this beautiful service this morning. Thank you also to Nancy Ludmer, Carolyn Benson, Noah again, Debbie again, and Daniel Gerard for laning. And Noah, let me just say, when you first came, I heard things like, you know, that Noah is really good. Then I heard, did you take his class? It's great. That class is perfect. And then my final and best thing that I heard was, Noah's here in person. Did you see? Did you see? Did you see? So thank you for everything that you have done for SAJ. You have made such a difference here. And I know you'll continue to make a difference. Next Saturday, we have a special Hidur Shabbat with Naomi Less, followed by a picnic in the park. SAJ will provide sandwiches, Pride-themed desserts, and soft drinks, so everybody please join us for that. A reminder that Shavuot begins next Saturday night, and during the annual community tikkun at the JCC, Rabbi Lauren and Sarit Gallo will co-teach a session, Reproductive Rights Are a Jewish Value, Sources and Action. Their session is at 11:15 p.m. We can all stay up and make that. Also, Evie Litvak and Ruth Messenger are leading sessions as well. Check the JCC websites for all of the times. We hope that you can join us in 2 weeks on Sunday afternoon, June 12th, for SAJ as a Civilization, From Radical Vision to Community-Based Innovation. It's a symposium for all. Please, again, check SAJ website for details and the list of speakers, but Nancy Ludmer, who coordinated it, is here, so just ask her any questions you have at Kiddush. To all our members, if you've already donated to the spring fundraiser, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't donated yet, we please ask you to make a donation that's meaningful to you. We are hoping to have as much community involvement, dare I even say 100% participation. So please, you can go to the website if you no longer have the emails that you've gotten about it. And don't forget, a celebration of SAJ and our annual meeting is Wednesday night, June 15th. We need an RSVP about a pre-meeting dinner and a proxy for the meeting. Please see your email for a link to respond to that. So that's all I have for this week. There's Kiddush upstairs afterwards, or grab and go in the lobby. So everybody have a wonderful week. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So we've had several different goodbyes, but I get to say mine now. So Noah, I wrote this out so I wouldn't mess it up. So may you be blessed to continue to lead in the Jewish community in North Carolina, that's where you're going, and elsewhere, in prayer and meditation and social justice, as you have done with us at the SAJ for the last 2 years. With whole heart and soul, b'lev, b'chol lev v'nefesh, creating kavanot and teachings that help us find meaning and comfort in our lives. B'chol derachecha da'ehu, in all the paths on your journey, know God, the divine presence, being fully present wherever you may be, as Rav Kook interpreted that line. And for all of us, for all of our paths and on our journeys as well, may we be fully present. And thank you again. So, b'chol derachecha da'ehu. B'chol derachecha da'ehu. Ay, la 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 la. B'chol derachecha da'ehu. Ay, la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya 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 la 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 la, ya la, ya la 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 la, ya la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la ya ya la ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya.
Thanks so much, Debbie. I was remembering that the first service that I led at SAJ a year and a half ago was with you in the middle of COVID winter, and you're such a gift to this community, your voice, so beautiful, so thank you so much.
So, Shabbat Shalom, we'll have Kiddush down here, and then you can take your path, either upstairs or out the door. Hopefully upstairs. Hopefully upstairs. And,
yes, please join us upstairs.
Shabbat Shalom to all of you on Zoom as well. It was good to see all of you here. We're waving.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And do not forget the symposium. It is
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Donna, what did you say?
Don't forget the symposium.
Don't forget the symposium, yes.
Yes.
Not this Shabbat, but not this Sunday, the Sunday after, June June 12th. June 12th. Absolutely, it should be wonderful. Good cast of characters there. You gonna?
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Noah.
What?
Shabbat Shalom. Okay, we're going to
Bishamru?
do, Bishamru, page 465, if you want to join in for Kiddush. Bishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, wait. Can you say that one? Oh,
Okay, ברach Adonai את יום השבת ויקדשהו. סברי.
all right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat